Morning. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Sally and I were traveling on Friday, and she plugs in our radio some music of the 70s. We do that often, and some pieces by Simon and Garfunkel came on. And I said to her, I could listen to them all day. Thank you. You guys right there. So here I am again with some of my rereadings of Wendell Berry. This is from a book called What Are People For? And a chapter in there called The Work of Local Culture. I'm grateful for the opportunity to relate more of his musings that resonate with me. As many of you know, Berry, a farmer and activist, has been writing novels, poems, and essays since the 1960s. I've decided that in my second time around with him that he was, well, he's still alive. He's 90. He turned 91 last year. But he was a man toiling in a wilderness, similar to Eliot's wasteland, whose words seem to be those of a prophet. In the work of local culture, he reflected on his community and his place in it. Recall that in my previous meditation, we learned about the importance of recognizing and finding one's place. In this essay, he continues to reflect, and I quote, "My walks in the hills and hollows around my home have inevitably produced in my mind the awareness that I live in a diminished country." He's talking about the United States. The country has been and is being reduced by the greater centralizing process that is our national economy. And of course, last week, Brad is beginning to introduce this idea of digital empire, which was in 1990 when this was written, he was just at the cusp, right, of that development of that empire. As I walk, I'm always reminded of the slow, patient building of soil in the woods, but under the trees and in the fields I see also the gullies and scars left by careless logging and bad farming. I see the crumbling stone walls and the wire fences that have been rusting out ever since the 1930s. I see the sagging and fallen barns, the emptying and ruining houses, the houseless chimneys and foundations. Along the roads and streams, I see also the trash and the junk, carelessly manufactured and carelessly thrown away, the glass and the broken glass and the plastic and the aluminum that will lie here longer than the lifetime of our species. As local economy decays along with the local, as the local community decays along with the local economy, a vast amnesia settles over the countryside. As the exposed and disregarded soil departs with rains, so local knowledge and local memory move away to the cities or are forgotten under the influence of homogenized sales talk, entertainment, and education. Note, though Berry was writing this at the cusp of the digital age and its expanding empire, his reflections are germane to us today, I believe. So stay with me, one more thing. So I was walking one Sunday afternoon, according to Berry, several years ago with an older friend. We went by the ruining log house that had belonged to his grandparents and great-grandparents. The house stirred my friend's memory, and he told me how the old-time people used to visit each other in the evenings, especially in the long evenings of winter. There used to be a sort of institution in our part of the country known as the sitting till bedtime. After supper, when they weren't too tired, neighbors would walk across the fields to visit each other. They popped corn, my friend said, and ate apples and talked. They told each other stories. They told each other stories, as I knew myself, that they had all heard before. Sometimes they told stories about each other, about themselves, living again in their own memories, and thus keeping their memories alive. Among the hearers of those stories were always their children. When bedtime came, the visitors lit their lanterns and went home. Last week, as we began to learn about the history of the digital evolution and the quote-unquote empire that has emerged, I realized that we may also be in danger of losing our version of a local culture, but losses that are similar to what Barry described. So what can C3 do to prevent this kind of loss? Well, I think to continue what we have been doing as a community for the last 2 decades, being intentional about attending to the stories we hear from our teachers, musical artists, and each other every week. Lately, though we have not heard each other's stories, i.e. I am C3, that sounds familiar, okay? Like I think we should. So I also think we should begin again, even though we may have heard many of those stories before.